Welcome to the D-Shift podcast, where we provide inspiration, motivation, and education to help you transition from the challenges of divorce to discover the freedom and ability to live life on your own terms. Are you ready? Let's get this shift started. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the D-Shift podcast. Today we have a guest on the show that you are going to want to put down everything if you're driving, pull up to the side of the road because you are going to want to pay attention to this one. I have Dr. Regina Lark. She has a PhD in women's history. She is a multiple author of several books, an entrepreneur, and a highly sought after keynote and motivational speaker on women's issues. So, Dr. Lark, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for letting me join you. I love the whole theme and ethos of your podcast.
Oh, thank you. And I know that we're going to be a little more informal, so I am going to call you Regina throughout the rest of the interview.
Nice,
but I do
nice,
want
nice.
people to understand that, Dr. Lark brings a lot of expertise on this subject with her. So tell us, Regina, how did you get involved in women's studies and particularly the idea of emotional labor that we're going to talk about today?
Well, Mardi, it's a sort of a circuitous route. I was an accidental PhD. I had heard there's master's degrees and PhDs. I thought, well, I'll just go for the PhD. But when I was 30 years old, I took my first women's history class, and I became an instant feminist. And everything I did after that in terms of my coursework and education revolved around the lives of women. So when I finished my degree at the age of 41, I was out on the job market. I was teaching. I was adjunct professor at community colleges all over Southern California. Then I landed a job at a major research institution. And 7 years into that job, I finished up in a department of adult learning at their extension program. And it was good work. I enjoyed what I did administratively. But in that last job, which will always be my last job, my supervisor was a textbook bully, and I was in HR all the time. So in June of 2008, I went to Jerusalem to visit a very good friend of mine. While I was there, I told my friend, Nadra, I don't want to be a tourist today. How about if I do your kitchen? She's like, Habibti, what does that mean? I said, Nadra, your girls are in their 30s. You got sippy cups in the cupboard. Just let me do what I do. And I'm wired this way to declutter and organize. I'm just built that way. Didn't think it was a thing. Turns out it is. So I decluttered and organized her kitchen. Good result. I get back to my desk at my job, and a week later, my unit is dismantled, my position eliminated. 2 months after my layoff, I told my roommate, I'm going to organize until something better comes along. Nothing has, and that was 15 years ago. At the beginning of that journey, in 2008, 2009, I'm recognizing a couple of things. One, that it's mostly women who are calling me to declutter and organize their homes. And I also learned that folks who call professional organizers, because that's my professional label. I'm a professional organizer. I learned along the way very quickly that a lot of them are chronically disorganized because of how their brain is wired. Mm-hmm. It's nothing to judge. It's nothing to resent. It's nothing to label. It's just how they came out of the chute.
Right.
So now, over these early years as an organizer, I'm working with awesome women, smart, professional, high wage earners, completely responsible for everything that goes on in the household, not because they're particularly skilled, but because they're women.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm learning that it's women who are calling me, that people have clutter because as a result of how their brain is wired. And I have to step into that for just a moment. What I learned about our brain is in order to get things done in a timely way, in order to, when having a good relationship with time, good relationship with your emotions, having the ability to plan, produce, prioritize, all of that comes from the brain center called the executive functions.
Right.
And our executive functions got you and I on this call on time today, despite the time zone difference.
Right. Sure.
Okay? Yeah. Because that can wreak havoc in the lives of people with executive function challenges. So here I am, a few years into my business, working with smart professional women who just don't have the bandwidth to hang up their freaking clothes. It's women that are calling me, and it's women that are seen as the primary caregiver and caretaker of the household. And I just became curious about that. It's like, why women?
Right.
Wouldn't the work be better suited toward the person who's good at it? But there's this historical myth that women are just better at the work. And I've come to believe that, yeah, we are kind of better at it because we are taught that from a young age. I don't mean, okay, here's a current cultural consideration. The opening shot of the Barbie movie is girls playing house with dolls. So that platform has been around for a really long time. But what if you have executive function challenges and you're still raised to do the primary work of the household?
Right.
You're screwed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Your place is a mess. So.
Yeah. And I think that is so true. And I think when you're making a lot of decisions, like I think that whole executive function has you're right, that bandwidth limitation. I mean, if you're making major decisions at work and you're making, you're going through a divorce or you're dealing with caregiving for a parent or, who knows,
all of it,
other things, it makes sense that prioritizing may not be your house. I mean, it really may not be. And why doesn't anybody else pick up the slack? I hear that.
Well, it's so interesting that the work of the household is viewed as women's work when, aside from giving birth and breastfeeding, all of homemaking is up for grabs.
Should be.
Because you don't, well, it is.
Yeah.
Because the work doesn't require a vagina.
Yeah,
it requires executive functioning skills.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what it requires. And so through my work as an organizer, and I'm seeing these really amazing, smart, professional women feeling depressed and anxious and shamed by the state of their house. So I started investigating through a lot of coursework and training, well, what is going on with the brain? And I've come to understand that the work of the household needs to be done regardless of who's better at it. The work of the household is chronic. It's never ending. And it ought to be shared equitably among the adults in the household.
Yeah.
Simply put, it ought to be shared equitably. There's no reason on this planet that it is not. And say the term men's work, and we think all kinds of occupations and professions. Yeah. Say women's work, instant global recognition.
Right. Yeah. And I would like to say, because I'm not shy about this. I'm pushing 60, and I would like to say that things have changed, and they haven't. I'm still, I still talk to women who are in their 30s who are just overwhelmed with the fact that they're dealing with the house, they're working full time, they're raising the kids. Like I say, sometimes they're taking care of their parents who have,
Right.
dementia, or just are having struggles as they age. And, the husband, again, this isn't man bashing, but in these particular situations that I hear about, the men are coming home, they might have a beer and go out and mow the lawn, but that's like, and then the expectation is they're going to be thanked for doing that. Where the woman is working full time, comes home, cooks, cleans, get the kids' homework done,
So
gets
she's doing the triple day.
Yeah.
She's working full time for wages outside the home, full time for no wages inside the home, and then in that space between 10 p.m., 9 p.m., and 2 a.m., she's catching up on emails, and she's making appointments to. And again, a lot of people say, I don't want to male bash. It's like,
Yeah.
if these guys aren't stepping up.
Right.
So in order to get away from that language, I just talk about the other adult in the household.
That's a good, and I'm guessing, although I don't know, because I do work with some same gender couples, and I have to say that they have a lot of the same concerns, that one person is carrying the burden of the household tasks and the other person doesn't. So I think it's whenever there's two people together, if how should I put this? If one person is willing to keep taking on and on and on those extra work without pushing back, it's going to just keep getting dumped on you. Do you think that's a reasonable expectation or a reasonable summary of what goes on?
On some measure, I think that the adult that's doing the bulk of the labor does push back, does argue, does try to cajole, make nice. Can you please help me? When we say help me, we're actually saying all of this work is my responsibility. I need help, instead of let's partner and divide and conquer.
Right.
So I believe that early on, the adult that's carrying the lion's share does talk about how heavy that burden is.
Right.
But the adult that's not doing an equitable share, what I hear is, but you're better at it. What I hear is, I don't have the time. I don't know how to do it. I wasn't raised to do that. What else do I hear? Well, I just hear all kinds of things. Recently, somebody had, she came up to me because she had just heard my TED Talk, my TEDx talk. And she said, Regina, I loved your talk. She says, on my way over here, my husband calls and says, we're out of milk. And she said, it's in the refrigerator in the garage. And he said, why didn't you remind me? And she said, I'm the one who shopped. I did all of this, and you need a reminder?
Yeah.
When the refrigerator is as close as the end of your arm? So again, honestly, Marty, I don't really understand yet that the pushback, the disconnect. I don't understand why the other adult isn't saying, I hear you, what can I do? What? And all arguments end after that.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're absolutely right about that. No question. When you hear another adult in the house saying, I need help, or could you just do this for me? If you don't respond, or if you make some kind of an excuse why you don't, that's saying a lot about your character. As far that, I'm just going to put that out there. But I'm wondering, and I'm wondering if maybe this needs to be a part of, I had an attorney on here called Nancy Perpall. She spoke and she said, before you get married, you need to have two conversations about the finances and about sex. And you need to have those two nailed down before you get married, because those are going to be your two biggest sources of disconnect once you get into a relationship. I think now, hearing you, there needs to be a third discussion.
Absolutely, because in my book, Emotional Labor, Why a Woman's Work is Never Done and What to Do About It, I have a section in here called the Emotional Labor Life Cycle. And I think that if couples can anticipate, and anticipation is a critical executive functioning skill, if couples can anticipate everything that's coming up and preemptively delegate.
Yeah.
Instead of, oh my gosh, who's going to sign the school permission slips?
Right.
So sex, finances, and household management have to be considered before marriage. They have to be.
Yeah.
Before any type of commitment.
I think that's a really wise consideration. And do you think that some countries tend to do this better than, say, North American, Canada, the United States? That's really my cultural area. But I have friends who live in Iceland, Amsterdam, in the Amsterdam area, in Germany. It seems like those cultures are a little bit different as to how they approach that. Do you have any?
Just from what I understand, I don't have the country in front of me, but in one of the Scandinavian countries, women stopped having sex until men came into equity at home. How true that is, how widespread, I don't know. But from what I understand, even though there's a universal understanding, global universal understanding of the nature of women's work, or so-called women's work,
Right.
I don't know who does that better than other countries. I do know that it's a big problem in a lot of U.S. households.
Right. I was going to say, even in I'm from Canada, and there they have paternity leave, which is, in the United States there's not even maternity leave technically, right? So
right, it's sick leave.
Yeah.
It's disability. What do you apply for disability?
Yeah. So in Canada, they actually have paternity leave, and dads can take time off to help moms be at home with newborns, which is not the same as the general household management, but at least it might be something to get that going.
Well, there is paternity leave in the United States. Most men do not take advantage of it. Many do, but most won't, because again, the perceptions
Right.
of who you are in the paid workplace. What I find so remarkable since COVID is work from home has now become an acronym. In the 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s, when women wanted to work from home, even part-time, they were not seen as being very serious about their job.
Right.
They were getting passed over for promotion. And now it's completely different because men had to work from home.
Right.
And so the status of work from home has been elevated to new heights.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about how women can take some control over this situation. Not responsibility, but control. What can you do if you're in a situation where you're asking for help and you're not receiving it? Do you have any tips, strategies, ideas, other than hiring you to come in and get things organized so that you have a fresh start when you're getting going again?
Well, first, I would encourage the person who's doing the bulk of the labor to stop thinking of asking for help and to start thinking of laying out all the work that needs to be done and then dividing it equitably. one of the big challenges in that is how do we help ourselves back up? A lot of the work of the household, there's the physical work. Laundry is very physical: sort, wash, dry, fold, put away. But there's the thinking about what's coming up, thinking about, well, how much time does each cycle have? And do I have those 2 hours to get the clothes put away? And do we have detergent? And, it's the thinking about what's coming up. So a lot of the work of household management is very invisible.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got to understand what are the invisible components of our work? How do we make that visible? I encourage everybody to read the book and play the game cards of fair play. Eve Rodsky is a thought leader in the United States. Her book, Fair Play, has revolutionized household management. And she's got this really cool deck of playing cards. And this is, fun and playing with kids. And so you lay out the cards, and then the adults in the household divide the cards.
Right.
If there have been arguments prior to your desire to make this shift, then you really need to do this in front of a really good mental health provider or a really good coach.
Or a mediator.
Exactly.
Sit down with a mediator, a coach, somebody to help you do that.
Somebody that will hear both sides, teach couples how to speak kindly and without defensiveness.
Right.
The other thing I would suggest is to embrace what I call the art and practice of radical delegation. And radical delegation was coined by a good friend of mine, another thought leader named Judith Kohlberg. And traditional delegation is delegating the work to the person best suited to the task. If we agree that women are best suited because of how they're raised to the task, not good enough, because then that workload falls inequitably on their shoulders. Radical delegation is delegating the work regardless of who's good at it. It's delegating the work to just get it done.
Right.
And if neither one wants to do it, take it off the plate.
Or hire somebody. There's always that option,
outsource,
right? Yeah,
absolutely.
Outsource it. And what's striking me when you're talking, Regina, is this is really the same thing that any good team manager or project manager or anybody in the
absolutely
is doing, right?
Corporate management.
Yeah.
If you're running a company, you hire. See, here's the thing: we run a company and we hire the people best suited to do our tasks.
Right.
Well, if you can look at the household as a company and something to manage, and you only have 2 employees,
right,
you're not going to put the burden of all of the tasks on one person.
Right.
It doesn't make fiscal or cognitive sense.
Exactly. And I think there's one other step, and we're just about out of time. I think there's something we can all do as adults in a household is don't raise our kids to have that stereotypical role, whatever it is. Encourage kids to learn how to manage a household, whether they're male or female children or don't identify as either. They need to be able to take care of themselves.
But they also have to have the role models.
Yes.
So again, it's for me, there's always so many layers.
Yes. Yeah, this isn't something you can tackle in 20 minutes on a podcast. I totally get that. But I really like that visual thinking of this is a company or this is a sales department or whatever your area of your line of work is, and just how would you most efficiently operate that? Yeah, because you don't want the CEO washing the floor at night.
Right.
So we have covered a ton of stuff here, and I feel like we could talk for probably another couple hours on this topic. Can
I just interrupt you a moment? Sometimes the CEO has to wash the floor because the floor has to get washed.
Absolutely. You know what? That is so true. And what I'm hearing you say is as long as there's a plan for how to deal with stuff and it's not falling on one adult's shoulders, that's okay, whatever that looks like. And it may be one person does 60 and the other person does 40. And if that works for you, then that's what it should be. And there may be households, households where one adult wants to do 100% of the household stuff. As long as you are okay with it, it's okay. But if you're not okay, then there's options, right?
Right.
Yeah. So what do you think is the most important thing that we've talked about today for people to remember when they go on about their busy days?
To, I don't know. Take stock of what's going on in your household. Avail yourself of a good therapist. Embrace radical delegation. Understand that just because you have a vagina doesn't mean this is all your job.
Yeah. And you know what, that is really, I think, the key, that it's not one person in the household's job. Absolutely. Regina, I know you said you had a TEDx talk.
I just published that. You can find it on YouTube on the TEDx platform. And I think I sent you the link, and so you can put it in your show notes.
It will be.
It starts out with no bras required. And it just goes on for 13 minutes and 54 seconds.
There you go. I'm going to listen to it as soon as we get off here. This is going to be exciting. I love listening to TEDx talks. They're short, they're sweet, and to the point. I really like them. And so other than your TEDx talks, if people want to reach out to you, find out more about what you do, or reach out to you to talk to you about working with you, what's the best way to contact you?
Well, a good place to find me is at my website. It's aclearpath.com. And if you have decluttering, organizing, ADHD, or executive function issues, no matter where you live, I may be able to connect you with somebody like me. So let me be a resource to your listeners.
Wonderful. And thank you so much. And I'm going to encourage you all, as you can hear and see, Regina is super easy to talk to, and she's a wealth of information. So Regina, thank you so much for being on the show today. This has been really insightful and a fun conversation.
And I love talking with you too. I so appreciate your energy, great questions, and thoughtfulness. Thank you, Mardi.
Wonderful. Thank you. And everybody, thank you for listening into this episode of The D Shift. And don't forget to tune in again next week. Thanks for listening and supporting the D Shift podcast. If you would like to attend live trainings by our amazing guests and have a chance to ask questions and get answers from our experts, join the D Shift crew. For more details and to sign up, head on over to www.divorcecoachforwomen and click on the podcast page.